Guys, what's going on? So Triumph decided to discontinue the Speed Triple Double R for 2025. Now, the RS version of the Speed Triple is still available, and it's got some upgrades along the way. It's got lighter wheels, revised exhaust, slightly different tunings, bumping power up by about 5 points, but it's got this really trick new suspension. It's an Öhlins adaptive suspension. And basically the way that it works is you can program into the bike your exact weight, and it will automatically adjust preload. It will automatically adjust the firmness for how you're riding the motorcycle. You're taking it easy, it's nice and soft. Get a little bit spirited, she stiffens up. It's a really cool program, but it won't be employed on the Double R because it won't be around. So let's talk about that motorcycle, and let's try to maybe hash out why that bike ended up getting the axe. Now for me, I can tell you that I was a huge fan of that bike. I loved the styling, that retro-ish, neo-retro if you will, fairing that was on the bike, the clip-ons, the riding position, extremely comfortable to ride and drop dead gorgeous to look at. Very powerful too, with 180 horsepower and a gobs of torque out of that 1200cc triple. The thing is a real monster of a machine. And it was just the price, though, that kept me away from that bike, and the technology as well. You might say, well, what did the technology have to do with anything? Well, I'll say this. The fact that you had to have your key fob to open the gas tank, that was kind of a weird thing. It's something that traditional motorcyclists aren't quite used to, having to have an electronic gadget to put gas in your bike. But it wasn't just that. It was the unnecessary cost of the electronic suspension that it came with. And I'd even voiced at the time, look, if the Double R had a variant that was like the RS that just had a regular suspension, you could just manually adjust it, but you didn't have to incur the cost of all of the extras just to get the bike and the look that you're going for, there would be one sitting in this shop as we speak. But it didn't work out that way. And when those motorcycles were out, $21,000 was basically the going rate in a world where, well, RSV Aprilias were selling for 18, and, well, the Japanese manufacturers, you can get an absolute monster for that kind of money. It just didn't really make any sense for me. And so I went a different direction, and it's a shame, and I kind of would have liked to go with the Triumph. It was my first love, and I mean, you fall in love with it for the looks, the ergonomics rope you in, and my goodness, the riding experience. Well, it is worth some amount of extra money. That awesome torque hit with that 1200cc triple is just, it's addictive, right? But at what cost? You know, anything that's addictive is going to be expensive if it's any good, and that's the problem with the Triumph. It was just too pricey for the performance that you got. Now, with all of that being said, what could Triumph have done with this bike, or what could Triumph have brought to the table that would have maybe allowed for some folks to have gone in Triumph's direction for a sport bike? Well, I can tell you this. For many, there's no replacement for an actual Daytona, but Triumph doesn't have a dedicated true hyper sport bike in their lineup. I mean, you do have the Street Triple, which is based off of the 675 chassis. It's got a 765 triple, but it's based on the old Daytona chassis swing arm setup. And so because of that, it would just seem pretty natural to put a fairing on that and have a phenomenal middleweight sport bike. But that's really not why we're here. We're here to talk about leader class performance. And although the Speed Triple RS and Double R did offer that for the most part, if you're to go and look at objective data, it would fall kind of at the bottom for performance. And for a lot of folks that are in that market, it's everything or nothing. So had Triumph actually put a full fairing on the Speed Triple Double R, maybe removed some of the electronic aids, make it more of a traditional sport bike, I think they could have captured a lot of buyers and just call it the Daytona. And in a world now where so many sport bikes are being derived from street naked motorcycles, this would have just been another one in that sea of fish. And I feel like a Daytona derived from the Speed Triple in that respect would have been a huge hit. Price that thing somewhere around $15,000 to $16,000, again with more traditional suspension, key in the gas tank, and all of that type of technology. Keep the TFT and the 6-axis IMU, but I think you get the idea. I think this was a missed opportunity for Triumph. Now, could there be a leader class bike coming from Triumph with the Daytona name? Time can only tell, and I can only hope. But in the meantime, I will say a tearful farewell to the Speed Triple Double R, one of the best looking motorcycles. Just too bad it couldn't find an audience, but maybe we'll get that Daytona we've all been waiting for. Post up your comments, let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one.